stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known. It would have kept me from the one I had today. Times gone by, I've traded like dirt into clay. I thought my memories would end. One street over's now 1,000 miles away. When I close my eyes, I'm back to where I've been. In this life there's nothing certain, simply curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known. It would have kept me from the one I had today.
Oh, hello. I'm just in here chit-chatting with my friend Bill Jones. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm Utah LaVern, and yeah, this is one street over. What's going on one street over from where you living? We are living right and loving, working right here in Robertson County. We are so blessed and highly favored. In the words of our illustrious County Mayor Billy Vogel, that's what he always liked to say. We're going to miss you, Mayor. My goodness.
I told him one
you've been
day
such a great county mayor, and I've got a few more months with him, a couple more, I guess, before he
I told him one day he's
retires.
the king of one-liners that I know
love
of
it.
nowadays.
He's fun.
Today, he's got some great one-liners. He said.
And I'm trying to recover a video I have of him talking about the Notre Dame burning that's just hysterical, and he knows what I'm talking about. It's the funniest thing, but I can't find the
He
video.
laughs at himself, which is good, great.
Well, and Facebook took down videos, and I had downloaded it, but I cannot find the downloaded copy. It's on a damaged computer, and we're trying to recover it. And anyway, you know how that goes. But Bill, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't want to do it again. That's
Running for office,
a lot to do.
Yes, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it took me a few days to get over that.
Well, when I ran for, people are like, you ran for Congress? I'm like, yeah, I felt, hey, you have something in you that the Lord puts there, and it's like, it's something I'm supposed to do. And to this day,
that's exactly right.
I have felt like I was supposed to run for office ever since I was in college. I was in student government and Young Republicans. I was news. I was everything. And I thought the trajectory when I came out of college is that I'd be on TV news and all this kind of stuff. And then I ended up doing the Utah LaVern thing, which was a great blessing. I was able to be with my kids and be home. And it was just, he just opened up something different. But I always had in the back of my mind, I was supposed to run. So when Diane didn't run,
even if you lose, you were supposed to run.
Yeah, because honestly, it opened up doing this. It opened up the window to getting to know, to getting to understand the school system, and to be able to be a teacher.
It makes you look into things.
Yes. And, nonetheless, it just, it was absolutely what I know that he wanted me to do. I mean, I got 10,000 votes. Honestly, I've always said that with the district the way it is now, with it all being local, I don't know that I couldn't have been more competitive if it had been that district, because people knew me via my radio stuff. And so I might have been able to be more competitive. I don't know. It doesn't matter. That's not what God wanted me to do. And I got to be honest with you, that when I see you guys out there putting out signs and doing all the things, I'm like, oh, whew, I'm glad I'm not in that.
No matter if you lose or I feel sorry for those that lose, really, all that money and hard work and everything. Right. But you learn.
You do learn something.
Life is for learning, and we learn about things and be able to talk about it with people and everything, because there's so many different opinions out there. Mm-hmm. We've had times in the county, rough times, and people mad at each other. I was thinking about that this morning. We had a sheriff's race back in the 70s, and everybody was mad. They were taking sides. The commissioners were competing with each other about it, and we've had those kind of times, and I just don't want that to happen again. I don't encourage anybody to argue. I think it's done. What's done is done.
Well, and it's like the county mayoral race got a little tenuous on social media, but it seemed to be with the supporters for the different people, not so much the candidates. Because when you would see the candidates together, they all seemed very cordial. And I didn't see that from them necessarily, and I think we're okay. I mean, it seems to be. Now there was a lot on social media that was said, but that's just
what's different today than it was 30 years ago. We didn't have social media back then. It was newspaper, radio.
Sure.
So you just got to watch, see who's saying what.
Yeah.
Who are they?
Well, and we all just need to move on now. Let's get some work done. Because like you said, I mean, this county is changing so much. And we've got to pay attention to what's going on and be aware of
there are other counties around us that have already gone into the change of increased population and everything like we're going through, already beginning. There's already plans and laid out and it's done that stuff is moving in here. And we've got to do it right.
Yeah.
And none of us have been there.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing, I'm looking at other counties and how they handle it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm studying now to see what worked and what didn't work.
Right.
And
sure.
we got a precious property here in our county.
Yes, we do.
And the land and the people and everything. That's what I call it, precious property.
For sure. But congratulations. I was thrilled and just tickled. And because he is my commissioner. I mean, or will be. He's not sworn in or any of that. Do they have to swear y'all in and all that kind of stuff?
Do they have one?
Do they swear y'all in some kind of a ceremony?
In September.
In September, okay. But, well, I'm tickled, because he's going to be representing me, and he's a good one. So thank you so much for putting your hat in the ring. So, very good. And, I mean, you just didn't have anything to do. So I'm just so glad you're not going to be so bored, Bill.
Right.
I'm so glad you got something to do in your retirement. Since you retired from your business.
I was talking to a group the other day. I said, I've been on several boards. I've never run for election. Believe me, I'd rather be on the board than run for election. You don't have to have all this stuff.
They just have no idea. Running for election, it was when I did it, it was exciting and all of that kind of thing. But it was very stressful, very stressful.
Yeah,
and I just thankful I had the experience, but super, super glad that I don't have to run for office all the time. I think God's got me exactly where He wants me right now.
Right, that's the way to be.
And I'm in the classrooms.
I told
love my kiddos so much.
My neighbor that the other day. I'm exactly where I think God wants me to be.
I agree. Yeah. Well, with that said, just real quick school business. Let's just kind of make sure everything's clear here. The seniors. We've in our newscast, the seniors have left the building. The seniors were done on Friday, regardless of whether they had, some of them that were exam exempt were done Wednesday last week. But all the seniors in Robertson County are done as far as in school. Now, you'll see some of them in there making up stuff, if they've got a test missing, things like that, because their grades are open really until they walk, until they walk that stage, pretty much. I think maybe the 16th is the official day, but I know that Springfield's graduation is this Thursday before the 16th. But for us, I think the 16th is the grade cutoff. But nonetheless, the seniors are out. You've got all the kiddos now. You've got in high school, this is really kind of the last normal week. And then starting Monday, if students are exempt from their final exams, and that means that they've got an A or a B and very few absences. You can only have, I think, 2 if you have a B, and that's not unexcused absences, that's absences. You've got to be at school or you do not get exempt. So if you've got more than 2 absences and you've got a B, you will not be exempt. If you have an A, I think you can have 3. And that will allow you to be exempt from the exams. You don't have to take your finals as long as you've got the grades and you've been in school. Monday could be your last day. So I've had parents call me, are they really out, And I said, well, yeah, according to this, they are. And, but the ones that need to take exams we're on the block system. So 3rd and 4th block exams will be Tuesday next week. 1st and 2nd block exams will be on Wednesday next week. And then, if they have a parent note, these are high school kids. I don't know the elementary schedule. I think they're in all next week and they have like a half day on Thursday or Friday. But the half day on Wednesday for high school students, they have to bring a parent note to be dismissed at half day, or otherwise they stay all day. Thursday next week is makeup exams. And then Friday, you just come pick up your report card if you're in high school. So there you go. And we're about ready to go into the summer.
I never forget graduation in college, and everybody's, congratulating each other. Mm-hmm. And I thought later, many years later, I said it was the last time I saw the majority of those people. Yeah. That were my friends, last time I've ever saw them, or a lot of them have died.
Yeah.
But
it's
an event you won't ever forget.
You need to drink it in and really stay connected. Those people who you really want to stay connected with, you're going to have to be diligent because you won't stay. There's a handful of people that I've stayed close with from high school, hardly any from college. My one of my very best friends, we were roommates after college, and so we've stayed connected. But just very, very few people from college that I stay connected with, and Ginger's really about it. And she's the auditing director for TennCare, I think. I think that's her title. She's like she's the director of auditing for TennCare, I think. She's done very well for herself. We're very proud of her. But yeah, she's, we were roommates after college. I think that's the reason we stayed in touch. But anyway, you got to be diligent, guys, to stay in touch with all these folks. So anyway, congratulations. Go with God. All of the things. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I'd like to talk about a little history of the county commissioners, magistrates, judges.
Sure.
How we got started. And I think some things will surprise you on it. But our county, first of all, was formed in 1796. Wow. That's one of the first counties in the state of Tennessee it was formed. There was a Washington County. It was formed before that, but that was when it was all Tennessee and North Carolina were all one state. And Washington was one county. So that doesn't really matter. But in April the 9th, I think, of 1796, we were declared a county, along with Montgomery County. Montgomery and Robinson County was split up then, and so we were one of the first counties. There were three counties, I think.
You say there was a Washington County. Is there still?
It would be over in East Tennessee if it is. I think it is, but I'm not sure. I didn't look for that.
So how big was Robertson County when it first became a county?
Same as it is now.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. See, I kind of figured that it was a bigger, because I'm assuming that counties got expanded and added and all this kind of stuff.
Well, that changed in Cheatham County. I think things moved down there a little bit, and maybe Robinson County was a little more toward Cheatham, but I don't know about that.
Okay.
But anyway, when they, they first formed all these counties, we were, I got looking back, and my families on my Jones side, on my Woodard side, and Miles, Miles side, were all pioneer families that came here in the late 1700s. And I thought, well, that's pretty neat. I didn't think about it before until I was looking at this. And the first, they called them magistrates then, or justices of the peace was the first one. And they were appointed by the state, by the governor. And they weren't elected locally. And then later, they became, on up in 1835, they started to be elected by the county people. But they were, seeing old Westerns on when you're watching one on TV, the justice of the peace is usually the guy sits behind the bar and he has a hammer and he, brings judgment for something, and that's where it really was in the 1800s. They had a justice of the peace, and we started out with 11, and two of those, one was my great-great-great-grandfather, and the other was his brother.
Oh, really?
And their name were Miles, William Miles, which we have a lot of William Miles in our family. My grandfather was William Miles. But they were down around Adams. Mm-hmm. Of course, activity was around Adams. Mostly the first county court meeting was in a house down in Adams.
Well, that's because of the river, right? Is it
Just
adjacent
where
to?
people had grist mills and along the river,
Okay.
so you'd have a little community around that.
Yeah.
Cross Plains is one of the first ones too. They were formed before Springfield.
Well, because Kilgore, we'll be going to the Kilgore Bluegrass Festival. You know, Kilgore was one of
Yeah.
the first in this area,
Yeah.
if not one of the first settler, maybe. I forget exactly, but we'll be talking about it next weekend.
Yeah.
You know, so this weekend.
We have got a lot of history with
Yeah,
Robson County.
tons.
Yeah, and most people don't know it. And I'm thinking, been looking at it so long, I mentioned something and people's mouth hang open. And say, I didn't know that. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, you've been here all your life. Why don't you? But they don't. So Robson County is rich, very rich in heritage and history. And we have a lot of important people who came from here that were held offices and things. I know it's one man from Garrett from Barren Plains that was on the Supreme Court in Texas.
Oh, really?
You know, it's just a lot of people like that. We had another guy leave here and was on the Supreme Court in Colorado. It's just when you start digging around for this stuff, there's little jewels like you find in the ground, like Easter eggs, you know, that are out there that came from Robson County.
Right.
And Robson County whiskey was a big deal in that, and so was tobacco later. You know.
Right.
But anyway, we had our first justices of the peace. There were 11 of them. Now, I've got their names and all that, and they pretty well ran the show. You know, people would go to them, and they would decide small claims cases, and they'd marry people. In fact, still the commissioners today can marry people.
So you'll be able to perform weddings as a county commissioner?
Well, it's possible, yeah.
Well, you know, Billy
Like
Vogel.
remarry myself.
Well, it's so funny because Mayor Vogel, well, he said one of the funniest ones because I didn't realize he could perform weddings. He was like, oh, yeah. And he said he was on the fence row cleaning out a fence row one time and somebody came up and found him and had him do a wedding out on the fence row. And I think that's hysterical. But, yeah.
Bobby Jones was a commissioner here, or a magistrate, way back, and he told me a story one time. When he was retired, I think he had a tobacco warehouse before, he and his father. But anyway, he was retired. He'd sit up at the courthouse and wait for people to come in and want to get married. Now, back years ago, Saturdays was a big day for people to get married at the courthouse. So he sat there on Saturday, and they'd come in, and they told him, well, Mr. Jones is out here. He's a magistrate. He can marry you. So you cannot charge for that. A commissioner cannot charge for that, but they can always give a donation, the husband. So anyway, what his favorite saying was, when they got finished, they'd say, well, what do I owe you? And he said, well, just whatever you think she's worth.
How funny is that?
So that went fine for a while until one day he said that to a guy, and the man reached in his pocket and pulled out some change and put it in his hand. He said, I never said that after that.
That's hysterical. I love it.
But, the county has changed a lot because I can remember a lot of us being uptown, just watching people come to town. They'd go across to Dr. Wilkerson's on the south side of the square, Dr. Wilkerson's office to get a blood test, which was required then, and then go across the street to the county and get married. And that was on Saturday mostly that went on. So it was sort of an activity that we would watch, and what different kinds of people came in there from Kentucky and Nashville and all around. And that occurred for a long time. And I remember I used to be very sensitive to needles. In fact, I'd faint. And there was a Dr. Atwood's office on the corner, on the northeast corner of the square that I went to, and we went there before we got married to get a blood test. Well, it was a quickie thing, getting in and out, and as I was walking across the street, I passed out.
Oh, no.
I knew it was coming. I could tell, I get
my goodness.
queasy feeling, but anyway, they don't require that anymore. But it's interesting to me to see what all the commissioners, like I said, they first called them justices of the peace, then magistrates, and then commissioners today. And we had started out with 11, but it went to 42 in the 1800s. 42 magistrates in Robson County, which is a lot.
That seems...
Now it's 24.
Yeah, that seems rather...
Because There's 12 districts, and there's
Okay.
two people in each district that are elected. A lot
Okay.
of people don't know that. They just thought it was one. They didn't know two would be elected, but that's the case. And I looked at several other counties, and Davidson County had, in 1990, they had 40. That's too many, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
I almost think 24 is too many. But anyway, most counties are right around in the 20s. 24 is a pretty common figure. But it's interesting how that evolved. They were called. In fact, I catch myself calling them magistrates now because when I was growing up, until 1978, they were magistrates. They didn't change to commissioners till after that. A justice of peace before that, actually. But the county judge used to be called a county judge. Now it was called the county executive, and now the county mayor. I remember when Howard Bradley was county executive, and they passed a law requiring that you be named county mayor. Howard didn't like that. He didn't want to be mayor. He didn't want to be called a mayor. He liked the county executive, but he had no choice because that was a law that they changed in 19. I think it's 2003 is when they did that.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it was.
He was executive mayor or county mayor for a long time, wasn't he, Brad?
I have that written down somewhere. Yeah,
And I feel like he was in it for quite some time. If and again, that's when I got to town. I got here in '92, and as I've said many times, I didn't know a whole lot about this county until I started sitting behind this microphone and doing this show. Because my life was all in Nashville, because I was traffic reporter there, and we roofed all over this area in other states, and we were all over. So we
Howard
were
Bradley,
here.
the county, he was a county executive, then county mayor. He stayed in office 16 years.
Okay.
He joined the commission. He was elected the youngest commissioner ever be elected at 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think anybody
know
has
that.
been near that since then.
I had no idea. That's it. See, this is all kind of stuff you get from Bill. You just never know what you're going to get. But I tell you what, let's pause and let's do our break. I don't want to get down to the very end and not get our breaks in. And plus, there's a couple of things I need to mention. Lee Marie has reminded us this is Law Enforcement Week. So keep in mind that they're going to do a memorial today. And let me see where she sent this to me. She's got it posted in the comments here. The sheriff's office is holding a brief law enforcement memorial ceremony on Brown Street, honoring those who paid the ultimate sacrifice while in the line of duty. And that's today at noon. And that's the sheriff's office holding that memorial service on Brown Street. So again, today at noon, this is Law Enforcement Week. So we will, keep that in mind, and I hope you'll be able to make that. But we want to pause right now and talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. I had Barry in last week. He was here on Friday, actually, and it was really to talk about the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival, as we have mentioned a couple of times, because we're talking about the history of Tennessee, all those things. Thomas Kilgore got here in like 1778, I think, and established himself
from North Carolina
and was the founder of Cross Plains. And it is just a really fun time that we have whenever we go out to the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival. So we hope you'll be a part of that, and it'll be a really good chance to sit down and talk to Barry and Rebecca, because they'll be there with some of their other agents that work with Exit Prime Realty, and you will have a chance to sit down and talk to them about all the things that are going on in the real estate market. Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to be a realtor? All those things. And on the question about is it a good time to buy, Barry will tell you it's always a good time to buy, because if interest rates are high, prices are lower. If prices or interest rates are low, prices for homes go up. So it always balances out. And he says, if there's a property you're interested in, boy, you better move on it. And if you want a great realtor to work with you, Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty, the best way to contact them is just to get online, Google them, and you'll see their information popping up, and it'll tell you that they specialize in Robertson County properties because they live up across Plains, have for 30 years, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky, because they've got a very diverse background, and like me, they're originally from Kentucky. They can still broker deals in Kentucky. Not everyone can, but there is a broker out of the White House office that works with Rebecca and is still, when they changed the laws in Kentucky. And so when you're starting to look at properties in Kentucky, you better make sure that the realtor you're working with has access to a broker that can broker those deals in Kentucky. Barry is a broker right here in Springfield. He has his office here in Springfield. And would love to meet with you. But again, just reach out to them via the internet, sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. Or you can call them 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425 or 7424. Or you can come out to the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival Friday and Saturday and talk to them there. But reach out to them today. And when you do, always let them know U-Turn sent ya. You need to come to the Bluegrass Festival. It's a good time.
I know it.
It's so much fun. I
can't go to everything.
I know you've got everybody trying to get you everywhere. So, but it is a wonderful time, and it will be Dan Kelly fiddle competition, and it's anything to do with bluegrass for kids. And I think it's like 15 and under. I think that's the age limit, but I'm not sure. But the fiddle competition's Friday night, and then we'll have clogging competition, and then we'll have a square dance. And the Chuns will be there, Larry and Cheryl Chun.
Down in Smithville, they have square dance contests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would like to see that happen.
It needs to happen here. It needs to get that big. That Smithville fiddle competition's huge. That's something you go to if you're running. When I was running for Congress, I had to go there because that was part of my district, believe it or not. Yeah. And it was so wide. But now it's right here. But nonetheless, it is a good time, and I hope y'all come out. $10, you can go both days. It's great. We're going to have great music starting at 11
That's
on
an interesting
Saturday.
story about Kilgore. I guess they tell it there.
Yeah.
And all
Joe
that.
Swan, as a matter of fact,
interesting.
going to come out and tell it. Joe Swan.
Oh, yeah.
And
He knows all about that.
I had no idea. He is our Apple Mac tech. He handles all that for Robertson County Schools. So I work with him all the time. I had no idea that he had all this historical knowledge. So I'm excited.
He's
excited
loaded with it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I had no idea, Joe. Had no idea. So I'm excited about that.
Thinking back also on this, the first county judge they were called before 1978. By the way, they were called county judges before 78. After 78, called county executives in 2003, and then on up, to county mayor. But the first one I remember lived up the street from me. Walking just a block away is Judge Robert West.
Okay.
He lived on the corner of Connell Street and 4th Avenue. And his daughter just lives not too far from him now. But he had a son named Butch that we played with and all that, and that's how come I knew him. But he was the first one I remember. But we had several, Mike Crawford from Greenbrier, and then let's see, who was the other? Roy Apple. We had him, Bradley, and so we've had 4 or 5 that I remember, and going to have another one coming up that I'll remember. So
yes.
I think everyone. I don't. Somebody's going to disagree with me on this, and the other day I told my wife, I said, I'm going to tell you something you're going to disagree with me on. And she said, no, I won't.
Oh, how funny.
But anyway, they are people, I think, in my own opinion, ought to learn more about their county political history and about senators, representatives, when they're elected, how long their terms are. Yeah. Because it gives you a feel of what's going on, and some of it, is just a bunch of cloud fake stuff, and you just got to learn to pick it out.
Well, and so you get out there and vote.
Right.
If you don't know what's going on, you don't get out to the polls.
I was very disappointed in the number of votes, and I knew it was coming like that.
What was the turnout? Do you know the number? Like, was it 3%? I mean, 30%, or it wasn't 50.
16%, I think. That's what it ended up, I believe.
What a shame. What a shame. 16% of the people went out to offer their vote. People have died for your right.
In my district, I know
16%.
I had a list of everybody that voted before in my district. So when the new list comes out, I'll just notice who did vote.
Isn't
It,
that
it doesn't show who they voted for, just that
Yeah.
they voted. So that's disappointing.
It's
And
very disappointing.
people, with all the social media and everything going on
Yeah.
now, they should be more educated on than they are. I had a guy, right at the very end told me, he said, "Who's running for county mayor?"
Oh my goodness.
And I named him. He said, "I don't know either of those three." And I thought,
Get on there and
this
figure it out.
guy, I thought he knew better than that, but it's just amazing how people didn't care. They just don't care, so they don't check into it and see what's going on.
Unbelievable.
But anyway,
Talking with Bill Jones, he is one of our local historians. He just won the Republican primary for county commissioner for the district that I live in, along with Gina. And Gina has been in it a couple of terms now. I can't remember how long. She's
12
been a
years, I
commission-
think.
Yeah, she's been in it a while. And so we're tickled. And but we're talking about the history of some of our county elections. You mentioned when we first sat down, talking about we were one of the early counties, and you mentioned Washington County, and I asked you, is it still there? And it is.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and it's out Johnson City.
That's over
Is
in East
in
Tennessee.
Washington County, and what just really got me is when I pulled up, I pulled it up, and their courthouse looks so much like the one in Mayfield that got destroyed. Looks, very similar, very similar. So
somebody ought to write a book about courthouses in Tennessee. with
yeah,
pictures.
wouldn't that be?
They may have
interesting?
already,
Yeah.
but I would love to have something like that.
But yeah, as soon as I pulled that one up, I'm like, oh my goodness, that looks like Mayfield's courthouse. But because it was red with the white trim and the big clock
We
tower.
could be, if you look at it a certain way, it could be the oldest courthouse, but what has happened, ours has been remodeled. We've had wings added on each side, which doesn't make it the oldest, original, some others are, but
Right.
ours is pretty old.
Yes, it is. It's magnificent too. But very cool. So Washington County was the oldest county, and it says it was founded in 1777.
Yeah, right. And it was
And us
it
right
covered
behind
the
it.
whole,
It covered like the entire
Yeah,
state,
the
pretty
state,
much,
yeah.
I guess.
yeah.
So that's fascinating. I mean, this is so interesting, and I to this day wish that we could have restored that cabin that was on our property, and we do
Yeah.
have pictures of it. Danny actually has asked me that several times, and I've got to just dig them
Well,
out.
the
But,
log cabin, as you go into the city park, Travis Park on the left,
Yeah.
as a friend of mine that grew up in that cabin.
Was it always there, or did they move it?
No, they moved it.
They
It was
usually move them
on Highway 76. After you turn on 76 going toward White House, it was on the right.
If anybody has an old cabin that you're wanting to take down and put somewhere, we've got a spot for it on our property because it was one of the oldest cabins in the county, and we would love to put something. And we'll probably eventually just do a reproduction. We've talked about just putting up a reproduction cabin there, and because it was full of termites, and it was cut up really bad, and it
I
started
was given a
collapsing.
cabin,
We had
an old 200-year-old cabin.
Wow.
But I thought, well, I don't know how to move one of these things,
Yeah.
but I'll get somebody that knows how. And I looked at it, it was so full of termites and stuff. I said,
Just
just
you can't-
tear it down.
Yeah,
It's
can't
not,
do anything with it.
not worth fooling
And a
with.
lot of them are. It's really hard. We spent a fortune trying to save it. And we would go to church and we'd come home and people would be in it, walking around,
Really?
curious. Oh, yes, all the time. And when the corner of it collapsed, we're like, we got to take this down before somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
And so we just, because nobody really, I don't think anybody really knew it was under there because there was a house built around it. And when we started taking down the old house, we're like, there's a cabin under this thing.
People don't believe people lived in those cabins like
Well,
that.
we've got
Dirt
beautiful
floors.
pictures of it. And I will get them together for the Historical Society because the roof of it was pegged. And that means it was built in the late 1700s because it was the way it was constructed is what we were told at the time. And, I don't know. But
this Charles
anyway.
Miles I mentioned a while ago, one of the first magistrates, justice of the peace, he lived in a house down toward Adams on the old Adams Road there. And it's fallen down now, but I went in it. It had pegs in it because they met there one time. The county
Wow.
Justice of Peace Court met there in that house at one time. But I looked at it and I thought, who lived here? How could they live there? It's just
Well, and I kept
dirt
the
floors and
pegs.
everything.
I kept a lot of the pegs from the ceiling. I still have a little handful
I have
of
some
them.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I gave a couple of them to the museum. And it was back before I knew Danny, so I'm not sure where they are. But I gave them to them when we took the cabin down. And
by the way, if you hadn't been to the museum lately, you ought to go by there.
I
It's
know.
different and a lot of new stuff.
Yes, I can't
In fact, I
wait.
just loaned them a woolen mill blanket that had U.S. Naval Academy on it.
Oh,
They
cool.
made it for them, and I've had it for some time. So I said,
Yeah.
well, they've got a display of woolen mill
Yeah.
blankets, so I loaned them mine to
That's really cool.
put on there.
You know, so much of that stuff, Bo has given them all
Oh,
his
yeah.
collection too. And, you know, we need to pass this stuff on. I had the
Right.
coolest experience on Friday. One of my seniors, and he's somebody that's in my club. He wasn't in my class, but I just love the young man. He's just wonderful. And he was there, and we were kind of walking through the room and looking at, I've got some antiques that I have in my classroom that were either my dad's or people
Yeah.
have given them to me, and I've displayed them for the kiddos. Well, he bought I paid a lot of money for a Polaroid camera that has the pull-out film, and that's
I
super
remember 'em.
expensive. Yes. Well, he was in my classroom, and I have two of them. And I had one on display, and I had another one just kind of stuck up in the cabinet. Somebody gave me. I don't have any idea where it came from. And I said, "Oh, and here's another one." And I looked, and he goes, "Oh, that one's so cool." And I said, "Well, here, take it." And he was like, and it was the sweetest thing. He goes, "That's so cool that you're letting me." I was like, "Trust me, I got lots of this stuff." And all of us that have this stuff, that if you find somebody that has a passion for it, pass it on. Pass it on.
That's the thing. You know, I run into people, they'll have pictures or they'll have things and they think they're valuable.
Well, yeah.
Well, who's going to pay for it, you know?
Exactly.
You know,
Pass it on.
everybody needs to see photos. And I have been talking to the museum for years. Put some photos out there. You got
Yes.
a world of photos, and they're starting to do that now. And it's so interesting,
Yeah.
because people can share them on Facebook, and they'll ask questions, and they're coming from the museum. It's going to make the museum more populated because of that. But
See, I've got some stuff. I've got one that ended up, I don't know that my brother even knows that I have it. It was a framed picture, and I guess it's in Mayfield, but it's like horses and all that kind of stuff. And somehow or another, it ended up in the stuff that ended up here, and I've got to get it back to Mayfield somehow or another. You know, I mean, I'm just going to need to take it back there. I got to remember to do it. But it's not of this area, but it's really cool to look at the, you know, horses and buggies and all this kind of stuff. It's just neat.
Yep.
It's just neat to see all that. But anyway.
I always said, you know, 1900, only the rich people had cars and everybody had horses. Now everybody's got cars and the rich people have horses.
It looped around, didn't it?
It's interesting to
It's
notice
very
that.
funny. Yeah, it really is. We're talking with Bill Jones about some history connected to how our government works, because we did just come off of an election. We will have a general election coming up in August, but it won't be it's just, we're a conservative Republican county. We do have, I got a lot of good Democrat friends out there, but, you know, it was pretty much decided.
It's healthy to be two parties or three. It's healthy. It's not, you know, if we all one party, would bother me.
We tend to outnumber the red seems to outnumber the blue in this county.
People make you think a lot of times when they come up with a different idea or something. It makes you think and wonder about it and study it. You know, that's really good, I think. Anyway, another thing I ran across in 1940, our population was 29,000.
1940, 29,000.
Now it's 80,000 plus and rising quickly. And you know what the budget is for our county right now? $80 million.
Oh my goodness!
And I bet you within the next few years it hits 100 million.
Oh, I think so too.
They're, you know, the people,
especially because of the schools.
I sat out
we've
on.
got schools. We got some schools that we're going to have to build. I mean,
Right.
You're just going to have to get them done, and so that's going to really. I don't know if those are budgetary things, but you know.
What was interesting to me is sitting out at Westside with my sign on election day, and people come by talking to you, telling you facts and data that wasn't exactly true.
Oh, and you're like,
but it gives you ideas
Yeah.
of what they're thinking. What are you thinking about? You know, I want to know what people are thinking. But you know, some of the older people, they'd tell you stuff. Maybe 10% of it wasn't correct.
Right.
But I didn't want to correct them.
Yeah.
But it just gives me an idea how people are thinking, where it's coming from. But
and how misinformed.
right. And we need to be more informed. And, you know, there's is people that want to spout their opinions right off the top of their head before they've really studied it and looked into it. And we need to calm down and study things and come up with an opinion then, which may not be liked at the time, but it may be right too.
And one thing too, when you're talking to people about things and you're having to correct them, I hope people do that humbly, because I listen to a lot of ministry stuff, and I've got several famous preachers I follow, and I watch their stuff because they're just real insightful. But the more popular they get, some of them get to where if there's something they don't agree with it, rather than in love correcting it, they mock. And I'm like, do you have any idea what that does to? Right. For me, bad. The minute I see you mock somebody because you're like, oh, that's stupid. What are you doing? And I don't care if they're completely far-fetched. Correct them in love and never lose that love. And I just say that because we get into that with politics, of course. But when you do it in ministry, oh, man, it breaks my heart. And I see so many people.
My favorite saying is,
do it in love.
Chapter and verse, please.
Yeah.
You're going to hell because,
it's like,
tell me where that is.
Show me.
I want to know about that.
Yeah, but I was listening, just when you started talking about the disagreement part of it, I listened to a preacher that I just really love, who's originally from Nashville and is in Texas now. And y'all might be able to figure out who I'm talking about. And he was playing something, and I agree with him. The guy was incorrect. But he was really mocking him, and I was like, ugh. It just really turned me off on his message. But I still like him. But don't do that, y'all. It really doesn't help. It doesn't. You think you're funny. You're not a comedian. You're not a comedian. Quit it.
Somebody said something to me. Well, the commissioners meeting ought to be on YouTube. I said, well, it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Duh. And
see, no, I'm mocking somebody. I'm like, ooh. It is. You just
really you can't.
I got to quit doing what I said.
You can't tell what's going on in the commissioners meeting because you really need to be in the committee meetings.
Yeah.
To see department heads and how they come up on this stuff. So you'll know this is how they arrived at what they're doing and saying, and it's hard to see when you just see the final vote on it.
Why did they do that? Well, you got to. Are the committee meetings then televised? Or
no, but you can go to them. You can
go to
public.
them if there's something specific you're interested in. Okay.
Sometimes, and I know Coopertown's is, but it's after the fact. It's not live, but it's after
like
the fact. You can watch it later, which is fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes in those meetings, you can't. If you're watching it on YouTube or something, you can't hear the person asking a question or making a comment.
Right, things aren't
because they're not at a microphone.
Yeah.
Now the county court meetings, you can pretty well they come up at a microphone, and I'd love to see how they vote, and all that. But if you really want to get into it, you need to go to all the meetings and see how they got to that place, because some things are set by law. You have to do certain things a certain way by law. It's not somebody making their own
like that,
opinion,
But I tell you what, let's pause for just a second because I need to do another break. And also, are you going to the TFA meeting tonight?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that's at the American Legion. Lee Marie, I've already talked about the memorial today at noon over at the sheriff's office. It's Law Enforcement Memorial Week, and they're doing a memorial today at the sheriff's office on Brown Street. And but tonight, TFA is meeting at 6 p.m. at the American Legion, Post 45 in Greenbrier. Guest speaker, Colonel Chris Orndorff, and he's always interesting and always fascinating. So that'll be something you want to go to, and you can talk to Bill. He'll be there as well. But we want to pause and talk about my friend Chris Armentrout. We had an opportunity to meet him. Just they brought him in to talk about VA loans. And it was just Scott brought him in with him one day, and it was real interesting because whenever they're talking about VA loans and Valor Mortgage, I thought that's what they must do. Well, they do it all. They do VA loans, they do FHA loans, they do conventional, jumbo financing, everything, whatever it's going to take to get you to the closing table. Because let's face it, buying a home is one of the biggest decisions you're ever going to make. So why would you settle for a lender that is going to treat you like a number? And if you call those 1-800 numbers about trying to get mortgages or see if you can do refis or do equity loans, you are going to be treated like a number, and you're also going to get bombed with all kinds of spam the minute you call. This is a local mortgage company. Chris and his experienced loan officers, they work hard to find you the right mortgage solution for your life, your budget, your goals, whatever it might be. If you're wanting to do your first home purchase, you want to do a refi, or if you're investing in your future and you're wanting to buy another property and then have a rental property, something like that, they're ready to help you. Brian Pulley was telling me how they fixed him up with a refi, saved him a couple of points on mortgage, and it was amazing. He goes, it took me virtually no time. It was so simple and so easy, and it's because he had a team working with him, local team that cared about him. So whatever it is that you need, you can give them a call at 615-671-9178, 615-671-9178, or you can go to valor.mortgage to get pre-approved today, because when it matters most, you deserve a lender you can trust. Buy with confidence. Buy with Valor. Valor Mortgage, NMLS, number 1210804. DBA of Encore Lending Group, NMLS 1249911. Equal housing lender, subject to credit approval. Rates and terms subject to change without notice. Not a commitment to lend. Let them know U-Turn sent you. Valor Mortgage. Your turn, Bill.
All righty, let's see. We didn't cover the term of squire.
We did not. What
No,
is that
squire
even?
came from the English.
Yeah, I was gonna
All
say,
our
that's
laws
like
came
British.
from England,
Yeah.
all our form of government and things. And that was, the word squire was later changed to the magistrate or what am I trying to say? What was before magistrate? Justice of the peace. So squire and justice of the peace is the same thing, but it's an old term that I used to hear when I was younger, that name,
Right.
and it was in the old newspapers. They'd talk about squire so-and-so, because that was the old way they used to name them. So that's in there with all that. And I noticed too, that, as I mentioned earlier, different levels of activity with the county. Like in 1951, the commissioners, or the magistrates then, got concerned that everybody wasn't paying their fair share of county taxes. And what was happening, the old people who had been around here a long time, and farmers and things, they were down lower and never was changed the value of their land. But new people coming in, they were charged a lot more. So it was unequal. And that went on for a good while. They had reapportionment. They had all kinds of things to try to correct that. But I can remember when I came on the election commission, the county of tax equalization board, there were remnants, and I saw out there long before Chris Trauber became his office, there were remnants of people who evidently somebody favored them, commissioners or somebody, or tax somebody, and they were not paying their fair share. So you'd have to get in there and easily, sort of softly try to change them, and they would be upset about it, But now it's pretty well equal. I hardly ever run across any now that's not correct, because we look at that all the time. The state looks at it, the county looks at it, so they're all pretty well evened out in there. But I can remember used to, and I read some old newspaper articles in the 50s where they were, it was really unequal way back then. Then in 1978, the interesting thing happened. There was a quirk, a little loophole in the law, that if you were a county magistrate then, you could retire and collect retirement from the county, up to $200 a month. So we had a whole bunch of commissioners that retired real quickly before that little hole in the law was fixed, that loop. And so they retired to collect their money.
Oh, man.
And then some of them were very good about it. They wouldn't retire and say, I'm not going to take advantage of the county. And but that was sort of an interesting time, along with the sheriff's race in there and all that. It was a lot of hoopla going on, And it's interesting to see what some of the county magistrates got in trouble. Some of them were arrested, some of them were charged with things, and it's just people, But it was interesting to see. And I wouldn't mention it. My wife said, "Don't dare mention any names."
Isn't that funny? There's a connection to a sheriff getting killed back in Graves County, I guess. I've got to go get the book, and it's a connection to my family, to my, and I need to get you a
Well,
copy
a sheriff
of that
here
book.
killed out on
Yeah.
10 Pan Alley
Yeah.
in Springfield.
Yeah, but it's like and my cousins back. I've got a couple of cousins that watch this, and they'll be on there going, "LaVern, you got to." And I never read the book, but it was just I'm so far removed from being in West Kentucky. I'm here, I'm a Tennessean.
Yeah.
I was only in Kentucky for 17 years, and I'm much older than that. But anyway, yeah, I've got a book I bet you'd find interesting, but in your free time to read it. Right.
I've got a shelf full of books I want to read.
Yeah.
My wife just handed me another one.
Yeah.
You got to read this.
It's like, well, eventually. Keep going there, Bill. We're done with our ads. We're talking about the history of our elected officials, and mainly because Bill just came off of an election that he won, and we're super excited about that. But it is interesting to hear about how things have transpired and how they have changed over the years to get us where we are today.
It's not easy, but it was fun in a way because I had some people say things to me that normally would make you mad, but I said, well, it's just the way they're thinking.
Yeah.
I rung a doorbell on one house and nobody came to the door, so I laid one of my cards on the table on the front porch. So in about 30 minutes, this guy calls me. What's this trash on my table? I said, oh. So we talked, and after about 20 minutes, we had a good conversation.
Yeah.
He had some information that wasn't right,
Yeah.
and I didn't tell him you're wrong. I just said, we could work on that. He said, let's come put a sign in my yard.
Oh my goodness!
And I realized,
isn't that funny?
Yeah, I realized a lot of people just want to be heard.
Yes,
nobody's
they
listening
do.
to them, and they have complaints, and a lot of times they're in error. They're not correct, and it does sound bad when you get the incorrect information. It sounds like somebody's doing something to somebody, but it just showed me that you got to sit down and listen to people. And then I did that. Waiting outside the West Side School during Election Day, I just sat. Gina Head Heber was there, and she was doing the same thing. I listened to her talk to people, and she was so easygoing and explaining, and I thought that's the way it ought to be instead of just getting huffy and say, get away from me,
Yeah.
That people,
She's
they
a sweetheart,
exaggerate things so they can be heard. They want to be heard.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to do is sit and listen to people. You don't have to tell them they're wrong or right or anything. Just listen to them. Mm-hmm. Well, where did you see that? Or where did you hear that? How do you, there's ways of asking questions, and you can't just ask a question sometimes. Why did you do that? You got to say, well, what brought you to that decision?
Right.
People don't get mad.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just, you want to, and with such a rush and a hurry nowadays, we don't listen to people most of the time. So that taught me something there. I would do it again, but it's not easy. It takes up a lot of time.
How long is the term?
4 years.
4 years. So,
my great-grandfather was a magistrate.
Okay.
And, of course, at the very beginning, my great-great-grandfather was a justice of the peace, one of the first 11.
yeah.
So I'd like to, somebody asked me, why are you doing this? I said, well, I'd like, I have ideas and I have things that maybe could be considered to do good for the county, but I would just like to be in the history of Robeson County,
Well, and two, because you have your whole life here.
Right.
You've got an insight that a lot of us do not have, and so I think that's really a critical thing to continue to have within our county commissioners is that connection to the early knowledge you have of this county, and having been a businessman, your father a businessman, and just the heritage that you bring to it. I think is
bothers me
really
the most.
priceless.
I ran into a woman at the grocery store yesterday in Kroger's. And she spoke to me, and I thought, I vaguely remember you, but I don't know who you are. And she's, I'm glad you. I said, I didn't see you at first or something. I walk off and I said, who is that?
It happens to me all the time, but it's just part of it.
I really want to know about people and what their problems are, what they're getting into, and so many people with cancer. And it's such a hard thing, and divorces and
It happens.
Been through a lot of that, so I just can feel how they feel. But
nonetheless, and what else have we got? We've got about 5 minutes here. Anything else you want to cover before we wrap up our time?
You mean other than this? I have.
Is
I'm going to
anything
sit
else?
down and write an article. In fact, an article won't get it. It's too much information for one article. But I write for the paper, Raleigh
Right.
County Connection, and I wrote one last week about voting, how we used to vote, and I mentioned Juanita Bagwell's name because her father had the Robeson County Times, and it was right across the street in the courthouse. So on election night, everybody showed up at the courthouse. It was just crowd stuff, people all around the courthouse, especially the west side. And she would come over from the newspaper to get totals. And we would have people calling in totals and also bringing their boxes in, paper ballots. And we were sitting there really busy counting. And she would come in and look over, well, what's this, what's that? And it bothered some of them, but it didn't bother me. I'd get up and leave the room and I'd say, Juanita, here's what we have so far. And she'd run back and paste it on the window at the office, because they were going to of course, we had WDBL radio was doing it also. But it was an exciting time back then because there was people in the courthouse. Of course, you can't walk in the courthouse now. They got going through the buzzer,
It was a different time. It really was. It was a different time.
That was a neat time that everybody would come and listen to the results. And a lot of times you wouldn't know all the results till late in the morning, like 2 or 3 o'clock, because sometimes people who were way out in the county, it tickled me, they would be way out in the county. I was on the election commission in the 70s, and they would be so tired of holding elections, they just went home with a box. Well, I wasn't supposed to do that.
No.
And they would call it in. Well, sometimes they called it in the wrong figures.
Yeah.
I remember that happened one time, and some people were upset because they first said they won, then they didn't. But people back then, and then it was so slow because of paper ballots. I remember one guy, he came in after the election, and he said, I know I won. You all have messed up the election here in this town because I know I was elected mayor. Well, we weren't supposed to do this, but we pulled out the voting ballots. They're paper. We always tore a corner off, put it in one box and the balance in another, and we could match them up. So we did. I pulled them out. We matched them up for them. They couldn't tell who voted, but we laid it all out there on the tables, and he looked at it. He said, well, more people told me they voted for me than they are here.
Uh-oh.
I don't want to say you're sort of naive,
Yeah.
But
being honest,
elections back then were really, really interesting. Now it's so bang, bang, bang. They hang the results outside the door of the voting place, and then, of course, Smokey Barnes gets them, and bam, they're right on there. And, like today, the Monday after election is always certification day, where they take the machine, they take the voting things, they look at everything, and make sure all the totals are correct. Mm-hmm. So you're really not in there until it's certified on Monday.
Gotcha.
But a lot of times on the certification day, we would spend all day long working on it because paper ballots and all kinds of, people. I was a Republican. There wasn't many Republicans in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and we would have to find a Democrat woman to work in the election.
Yeah.
And it was hard to do, but very, very interesting. And of course, being older, I can remember a lot, like Judge West. And I remember these people, and I remember what they did back in the 70s and the 80s and in different times and different things that came up. And I just know from experience it's not good for us to have all this controversy. No. So I'm just asking and telling people, just cool it, let it simmer for a while until you come up with stuff, and be of help and not a hindrance. Don't accuse people, but just study the situation and say, well, how did you get to this point? Mm-hmm. Instead of saying you're wrong, well, how did you get to this idea? That's interesting, And that way you don't have to be, people form grudges and get in fights and arguments and all that, so.
Well, very good, and I tell you, that's pretty much our hour. So Joey, I was just really excited to have Bill in here because ever since he won the election, I was excited to talk to him, and so I appreciate you coming in, and we'll talk again. Probably, if somebody doesn't show up, I'll be calling going, hey, Bill, can you make it in? It's like, I'm a county commissioner now, LaVern. I'm busy. I can't just drop everything and come running in there. No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing. But tomorrow we should hear from Dr. Danny Weeks. They've got the school board meeting tonight. So that's on the schedule, is to hear from Dr. Danny Weeks tomorrow. So I hope you'll be a part of what we have going on right here at 1100 WSGI. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.